Democratic Congressman from California, Khanna. He also serves on Joe Biden's campaign advisory board. Congressman, thank you for joining me. I want to ask you about the polling in just a second. But on today, which is going to be a moment to watch in this historic day of Donald Trump's arraignment in Washington, D.C., what do you think today means for Donald Trump in your view?
Well, I'm proud that it affirms the rule of law, and it affirms a lot of the work that the House January 6th committee did. The reality is that there was an elaborate plot that the Trump administration had to try to overturn a legitimate election. And we in this country need to hold elections sacred. We can't have politicians after the fact trying to nullify what the voters say. And so I'm glad that the rule of law will be upheld.
Donald Trump's defense team is preparing a defense that's saying his actions, his words around January 6th is protected political speech, protected by the First Amendment. You don't agree with that, I know, but are you concerned that is going to be a tough case for prosecutors to prove beyond a reasonable doubt?
Well, this is not about his free speech. I mean, if he wants to go out and give a speech and cast aspersions on the validity of an election, that's unfortunate. It's leading to the polling you cited, but that's not what is criminal. What the allegation is that he was interfering with the Justice Department, interfering with White House personnel to plot the overthrowing of legitimately elected electors and trying to subvert that process using government resources. This is not Donald Trump just making speeches, and that is the distinction.
I want to ask you about that poll number and some others. Nearly 7 in 10 Republicans still, in this poll, recent new CNN poll, still say they believe that Joe Biden did not legitimately win the 2020 election. That number is ticking back up. That number is higher than earlier this year, higher than we saw through last fall. Why is that?
Well, it's unfortunate but not surprising, because as we head to another presidential election, this country is deeply polarized and people are getting into their partisan camps. And it's no secret that Donald Trump is leading decisively in the polls and is likely to be the Republican nominee. And he's out there continuing to say the election was stolen. And that's why 2024 is really going to be a decisive election in this country. In my view, it's going to be a rematch between President Biden and President Trump. And the American people really are going to get to weigh in on whether we count our votes, whether it's okay if you lose an election to try to subvert the process. That's what's at stake.
Another part of this poll that is important to talk about is Joe Biden's approval rating. Overall, his approval rating is sitting at 41%. That is not great. His approval on handling the economy is even lower than his overall approval rating. Handling of the economy is sitting at 37%, Congressman. And this is where the number sits when you've got a series of good reports coming in about the economy. If that's where it sits when you're getting good news on the economy, how do you make a case that Joe Biden is doing okay?
Well, we have to talk about what the president has achieved and what he will achieve. He inherited a tough situation. He came in towards the end of COVID, and that was an economy that was hurting because of unemployment. We had to have spending to bring the unemployment rate down, and that hurt with inflation. So he inherited a tough situation. But what did he do? We've got construction going on around this country because of the infrastructure bill. We're bringing home manufacturing with semiconductors. We are bringing the fundamental technology to have the industries of the future with batteries and electric vehicles. Some of that is going to take time, but we're beginning to see the results. And I think as those results become more evident to the American people, and as we talk about how consequential this president has been, his numbers will improve.
That's the case you make. But as we're sitting in August of 23, and that's the case that has been being made for months now and talking about Biden economics. Are you okay if that approval rating on the economy is still sitting at 37% heading into 24?
Well, I don't think it will be come next November. But look, people were making this argument that the president's numbers were too low before the midterm, and everyone then was surprised that the Democrats did better. People were making arguments against this president back in 2020, including me when I was co-chairing the Bernie Sanders campaign, but Joe Biden won. So I think he's underestimated, and I believe when people go into the booth, they're going to know he's a decent human being, he's a patriot, he's trying his best, and he'll be reelected.
Real quick, CNN cameras exclusively caught up with President Biden on a bike ride this morning, asked him if he was going to be monitoring this arraignment today, and he, in passing, as he was passing by, he said no. But I'm curious how much you think you'd like to hear Joe Biden, when he's hitting the campaign trail, talking about this indictment against Donald Trump when he is campaigning and also still president, of course.
I don't think he should be. I think he should be focused on how he's going to continue to lower the price of eggs and milk. That's what I heard back in my district, how he's going to lower the cost of child care, how he's going to continue to bring manufacturing back, and how he's going to try to heal this country. You know, one thing I think the president probably regrets is that he really wants to unify this country. He wants to bring people together. That's what his inaugural was about. That's who he is as a person. And I think he knows that if he starts commenting on these things, that aspiration becomes harder. It's the hardest thing to do in American politics. I hope he'll continue to try to do it. I think that's what motivates him to run and to seek a second term.
Congressman Khanna, thank you for coming on. John.
Thank you.